Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on what is D2C and why should FMCG brands consider it, hosted by My Digital Shelf and presented by Screen Pages and Nestlé Purina. My name's Sarah and I'll be hosting the webinar with you for the next 45 minutes or so. And it's my pleasure today to be joined by Sarah Wilcox, who's the CEO of Screen Pages, and Vishal Krishna, who's the head of e-commerce and D2C at Nestlé Purina Pet Care. Let's give a warm welcome to Sarah. How are you doing today? We'd love to hear a bit about you and hear a bit about Screen Pages.
Yeah, so hi, just to confuse everybody, I'm Sarah too. There's lots of Sarahs. I run a digital agency called Screen Pages, and we specialize in helping brands implement e-commerce solutions. And these are sort of brands that want to go direct to consumer, but also brands that want to go to their trade customers with e-commerce.
Great, thank you. We're looking forward to hearing from you. And how are you doing today, Vishal?
I'm doing great. I thought I'd mix it up and not be a Sarah today, so it's good. So as Sarah said, I head up the e-commerce and D2C parts at Nestlé Purina. And yeah, doing great. Really happy to be here to kind of share some of the experiences we've had and kind of join in the conversation.
Perfect, yeah, looking forward to it. So just so everyone knows, there is a feature for you to pose any questions for our two presenters today. So you can use that feature at any time throughout today's webinar, and we'll have some time at the end to have an interesting discussion with our two presenters. We'll also be sending you the recording of today's webinar via email. That will come into your inbox tomorrow. So feel free to share that with any colleagues or listen back to it in your own time as well. So I'm now going to hand over to Sarah, who's going to be our first presenter at today's webinar. So I'm just going to make you presenter, Sarah, over to you, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. So hello, everyone. I'm Sarah, as I said before, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what is D2C and why brands should consider it. So a little bit about my agency first. So I'm the CEO and owner of a digital agency based in the UK called Screen Pages, and we're a full service e-commerce agency that helps brands deliver leading edge solutions around digital innovation and growth online. So our clients include predominantly fashion, lifestyle though, so food and drink merchants and B2B brands with an appetite for growth. So we've, over the years since the agency was founded, become experts in a number of fields. Obviously e-commerce I've mentioned already, but understanding how to deliver a good end user experience online is very important, and we're experts at that. Increasingly, consumers are accessing websites using their mobile devices, so we understand how to deliver a good mobile user experience as well. Many of our brands are selling internationally from the UK, or selling from other countries into the UK in multiple languages and multiple currencies, so we understand that very well. There are all sorts of other considerations that you need to think about when you're doing e-commerce, such as cybersecurity, because at the end of the day, you're taking people's personal details and credit card information through your website. And also, we understand a lot about how to educate merchants in the things that they need to know. So we can either do it for you or we can do it with you. And those are our core competences. So moving on, just a brief description of what is D2C. In the e-commerce industry or in tech, we like to have our sort of abbreviations of things, but effectively it means direct consumer. So it's a low barrier to entry strategy that allows brands like yourselves to sell directly to consumers. It bypasses the conventional method of selling through high street retailers or wholesalers or distributors. And so it's the fastest way to do that is obviously these days to do it through e-commerce. So one of the things I'm going to talk about today is why you should consider a D2C. So obviously there's been a lot of upheaval on the high street as a result of COVID recently. But overall, it's been a trend for years that consumers are increasingly going to want to shop from brands that they like in a multitude of different ways. So that sometimes they want to go in store, sometimes they want to go online, sometimes they want to go online and pick up in store, sometimes they want to go in store and order something that's not in that store and have it delivered to their home. So there's been a trend which is driven predominantly by big online merchants like Amazon towards the convenience of being able to shop however they want, whenever they want. So the various reasons you should consider it is, one is, you know, it's good to offer those kinds of options to your end customer, but selling direct to them gives you direct contact with them, and therefore you'll get direct feedback from them. So instead of relying on your sort of retailers to tell you what the end customer wants, you can actually get that information directly from the end customer. And it gives you the freedom to experiment with new products and strategies as a result, because you'll get direct feedback about whether they like it or they don't like it. So they'll be voting with their wallets. In some instances, by selling direct, you can offer more competitive pricing to the consumer and increase your profitability. It's good to diversify, and that's what COVID has shown us. Those retailers who've had multiple routes to market have sort of, you know, they've basically ridden the wave of COVID much more successfully than merchants who were reliant solely on the high street. And it also just gives you more agility if you've got this sort of these different options for selling to your customers. So we get a lot of feedback from our clients that we build these solutions for, where they're worried about what their existing trade customers, who are at the end of the day customers too and have been very loyal and helped them build their businesses over the years. So you need to think very carefully about how the shift will impact them, and think about how you can complement rather than compete with them. So a D2C approach can benefit them too. If you have an e-commerce website promoting your products, some of the customers finding those products on your website will still want to buy them in store. So it can drive footfall into the shops of your existing trade customers as well. You can also offer a sort of functionality on your website that explains where they can actually buy something in store and so on. So they too is something that a lot of our customers don't realize, is that your trade customers may also want to buy from you online rather than in the traditional way through the salesperson using all that paperwork and so on. So make sure that when you consider going D2C for consumers, consider whether you can adapt that to cater for your trade customers as well. So B2B e-commerce is a growing trend, and there are many advantages and benefits of taking a hybrid approach. So just some examples quickly of some well-known brands going D2C. We all heard about when Majestic acquired Naked Wines. Naked Wine was a very successful online wine merchant selling sort of direct from the vineyards to the consumer. I myself was a customer, very nice wines. Majestic bought them because they were so successful at selling direct to consumer, and they continue to grow aggressively online. Prince's also started selling bundles of products direct to consumers, and they had lots of sort of content on their site about recipes and so on that incentivize customers to sort of try new product ranges that they have to offer. And this also drives demand for their products in store. Joe and Seth's popcorn, delicious popcorns, and they've come up with some radical new flavors. I myself am a loyal customer. But they've been very successful at selling direct to consumer as well as through trade. And then we all heard about Heinz to Home, where during the first lockdown, you were able to order your sort of favorite Heinz products directly to your home, because when you went to that shelf in the supermarket, there wasn't any there, depending on where you lived. So that's been a very interesting initiative as well. And then finally, Cafe Pod, where you can have your favorite coffee capsules delivered straight to your home regularly. So what are the things that you need to consider if this is something you're interested in doing? Firstly, you know, should you sell the products that customers can already buy in store, or should you sell slightly different products online, similar but different? So that's something worth considering. So if you're only selling sort of packs of, you know, 8 coffee capsules in store, maybe you can offer big boxes of, I don't know, 50 if you buy them direct. How are you going to take payment? That's an important consideration. So what kinds of payment options do consumers want or expect online? You need to think about the end-to-end customer experience, not just what it's like to buy on your website. You need to think about incentivizing customers to tell other customers about what you have to offer. Consider something that caters for all touch points. So people don't just have laptops these days, they have iPads and mobile devices as well. And then you need to think about something called SEO, or search engine optimization. So I'm going to go through each of these in turn. So firstly, which products should you sell online? What are your trade customers selling? What quantities are they selling them in? How much shelf space is available within, you know, the sort of store for those products? What products are next to them? What competitive products are sharing that shelf space, and so on? And that should sort of drive your product strategy. Once you start selling, you'll gather information about your customers' needs, desires, pain points, and that's information that is difficult to glean if you're selling only through retail at the moment. You might find that they want a slightly different flavored popcorn that isn't available in store. So that's something that once you have that direct relationship with consumers, you can actually find out. How difficult or easy is it going to be for you to ship and fulfill those orders? Because there's a whole kind of network of logistics after you've taken the order that needs to be considered. Also, you know, if you're selling something that can easily be delivered by raw mail, that's one thing. But if you're selling something that requires two men in a delivery van, that's a bit more difficult. So that should drive your product strategy as well. And keeping it simple is very important. If you offer somebody 25 choices of jam flavor and ask them to pick their favorite, they're going to struggle. Whereas if you offer them 5, they should be able to pick out of 5 what they really want. So don't overwhelm your end customer with too much choice. And then finally, it's worth considering for your products a subscription-based model. We've all heard of the story of the Dollar Shave Club in the US, who've now taken 15% market share and in sort of razors and shaving cream by allowing people to sort of subscribe to a monthly order or weekly order. It's the same with brands like Gusto and Mindful Chef and Graze. Here in the UK, subscriptions work extremely well for certain types of products and services. So payment, how are you going to take payment? Well, that's really important to consider as well, because some customers will want to use Apple Pay if they have it on their iPhone. Others might prefer to use Google Pay if they're using an Android device. Some might wish to order with a credit card. Some might actually, in certain European countries, they prefer, bank transfers and those sorts of things. So PayPal is another thing that you should consider. A lot of people like to use PayPal when buying online. So have a think very carefully and talk to experts about which payment methods are the right ones to offer your end customer, which currencies, that's more appropriate if you're selling internationally. You'll need to think about getting a merchant ID for e-commerce. That's something that you'll need to talk to your finance team about. You'll also need to think about telephone orders, because once you have a direct consumer offering, then you will have customers ringing you up and wanting to order over the phone sometimes, and that's inevitable. So you'll need to be set up for that. And you'll also need to think about who your acquirer, so that's the bank that the transactions, that the actual funds will go into, and your transaction fees. When it comes to the end-to-end experience, it's more about the total journey when buying online. So think about what happens the first time a new customer visits your site. Even if they don't order then, how are you going to get them to come back and order? So you need to think about that, the sort of beginning of the journey all the way through to the end. So when they first arrive on your website, perhaps capture their email address so you can talk to them again about how wonderful your products and services are. Think about what happens after they've placed the order. What do they expect? Are they going to want to know where their delivery is? Can you automate that process to avoid them phoning you up? Can you put order tracking in place? And what are the next steps? What if they want to return something? I mean, this is more appropriate for clothing, for example, but it does happen that you'll deliver some beautiful, your beautiful sort of box of tins of baked beans, and they'll all be sort of, damaged in the process. So they'll want to return that to you or have a refund in that case. Who are you going to use to fulfill the order? So fulfilling direct to consumer is a lot different, obviously, than fulfilling trade orders. So you need to think about that, and there are various different options. You need to think about what kind of delivery methods and delivery options you want to offer. These days, a lot of consumers expect next day delivery because of Amazon Prime. Think about the paperwork that you need, even if you're shipping within the UK, you still need to have the right kind of paperwork. And don't forget about the all-important packaging. If something arrives in a sort of horrible, dirty Jiffy bag, it's not a nice user experience and won't say good things about your brand. So the next point I want to talk about is how you incentivize customers to promote you. So obviously you're going to need to do some marketing around this direct consumer initiative, but you can also get your customers to talk about you and become advocates for your products and services, and encourage their friends and family to purchase from you as well. So you should obviously incentivize customers once they first visit your site to sign up for newsletters, give them, say, get 10% off. We've seen that on a lot of different websites. We've all been exposed to that. It's quite easy to implement and automate. You could offer them a discount for recommending a friend. That's also very common in e-commerce. You can implement customer reviews and ratings. We've all seen them on Amazon. They work very well. People read the reviews and ratings and how many stars they've got, and an endorsement from another customer about a product is much more powerful than how wonderful you describe it in your product description. And think about implementing a loyalty program. They can probably buy the products, unless you're extremely lucky and you have something very unique, they can probably buy similar products from other merchants. So reward them for regularly buying from you. the most successful loyalty program in the world, in my view, is Amazon Prime, where customers of Amazon Prime feel rewarded because they get Prime delivery. What they don't remember is they actually pay for that. So it's a very clever, but also well-funded loyalty program. So think carefully about loyalty and rewards. So the other thing to consider, which I mentioned earlier, is implementing a solution that will work on all touch points. So increasingly, merchants are seeing more than 50% of the traffic coming to their websites is coming from mobile devices. People start their searches on Google on their mobile devices. They're searching for something that they wish to buy, and they come across a website first. The first time they see that website will be from their mobile device. They may complete the purchase later on desktop, but it's important to have a good user experience across all devices. They may have iPhones, but they may also have Android devices. These are Samsung phones, Google phones, Huawei phones. There are 20,000 permutations of Android device. That's device, browser, and operating system. You have to have a solution that works across all of those. You also have to have a solution that works equally well on desktop and on tablets. And you need to think about how you're going to be able to easily update any new product information you put on your website, or new delivery methods, or new pricing across all of these devices without having to have very large teams of people to do it. So when it comes to search engine optimization, otherwise called SEO, it's the thing that you need to think about in order to make sure that when somebody searches for the type of products you sell, you appear as close as possible to the top of the search results page in Google. If you don't consider this, then you could have, it's a bit like having a shop in the middle of the Gobi Desert. Nobody's going to find you. So you need to make sure that whatever solution you have has got good SEO, and we're experts in advising. There are lots of agencies like us that can help you with that. So it's not a dark art, and it's not rocket science. You just need to make sure that you take it into consideration and do the right things. So what is important to Google, funnily enough, is the end user experience. So what's important to you as well. So if you've got really good content on your website, good information about why they should buy your products and why they're the best products and what benefits they're going to bring to the customer, but also, is your site fast? If you have a very slow site, Google will say, right, the site is slow, so we don't want to give it a good ranking. So it's not going to appear top of the page, because people using Google should have a good user experience across any site they shop on. And Google also will rank your site based on how easily it is to shop on it. So these things are very important, but like I said, it's not a dark art, and it's not rocket science. You just need to get an expert to advise you. So a quick case study to finish off with. This is a merchant that we helped in the Middle East called Abu Khalifa Trading. They were one of the largest wholesalers of fruit and veg in Qatar. And in March 2020, during the first lockdown, they approached us and they said, we would like to very quickly, within the next couple of months, sell our groceries to direct to consumer. Can you help us? So they commissioned us to build a sort of what we call a minimum viable product to begin with, which was something that could be built very quickly and very easily and at a very low cost. And we launched Foodway in August 2020 as something called a progressive web app, which is the new way of building websites. They wanted to offer a consistent shopping experience across all devices. They wanted it to be fast. They wanted it to be app-like. They want to sell to trade as well as to end customers. They wanted to integrate it with their ERP solution, SAP, and they wanted to give multiple payment methods. So you download it and install it on your phone like an app without having to go to the App Store. You just pin it to your home screen. It allows people to sort of quickly add different things to their basket, much like an online grocer, but a very simple and quick and slick process. And you can also create shopping lists to order repeat shopping lists easily. So the results were a visitor to order conversion on the website of 15%, which is virtually unheard of in the UK. A normal conversion rate is about 3%. So 15.5% is huge. They saw an immediate surge in traffic of 73%, with 75% of that coming from smartphones. And the bounce rate, which is the thing that merchants measure in terms of how quickly people leave your site, is much lower than it is on your average B2C site in the UK. And we use a sample size of 20 sites. So by way of conclusion, if it's your first rodeo, for want of a better expression, talk to the experts and consider outsourcing. There's a lot to learn, and don't try and do this yourselves initially. Set up a project team internally that involving all the stakeholders from all parts of the business, because they're all going to have to be involved in some way or another, sales, marketing, IT. Learn from your mistakes. We learn more from our mistakes than our successes in life. And adopt a solution that will allow you to adapt quickly, and then prepare for a cultural shift in how you operate across the business. And that's it from me. I'm now going to hand back to Sarah. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you. Thanks. That was really insightful, and I think we'd like to also now hear a bit from the audience around, why they're listening in today's webinar. So I'm going to launch a poll, and the poll question for everyone listening is: what is the main reason you are considering D2C? So you have 3 options to choose from. Is it to increase your route to market and become an omni-channel retailer? Is it to grow your business and or increase profitability or reduce costs? Or is it to understand your end customers better and improve your products and services? So yeah, we're keen to know what everyone is thinking today. So we'll just give it a few more seconds for you to answer today's poll question, and then we will launch the results on screen as well. Great, so it looks like we've got most of the answers in now from the audience. So I will close the poll and launch the results on the screen. There we go. So 45% of people said it's to increase their route to market, 27% to grow their business, and 55% to understand end consumers better. That's really interesting. What are your thoughts on that, Sarah and Vishal?
I think the understanding the end consumer better is probably the most valuable thing you can do, because that's not only going to help with any D2C initiative you do, but it's also going to help your wider business. So it has benefits across the business.
Yeah, I agree. I think having the opportunity to be able to influence what type of products you launch in the future by understanding what your customers want now will really help the business overall, I think.
Yeah, and acquiring that data. Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I was going to say acquiring that data from your trade customers can often be very expensive as well.
Absolutely. Great. Well, yeah, no, that was great to hear where everyone's at in terms of, why they're considering D2C. So now we're going to get an example from Vishal about Nestle Purina's initiatives to have a D2C arm. So over to you, Vishal. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Cool, thank you, Sarah. So yeah, I'm going to take you through our experience as a business in launching D2C. So some of you may have seen or not, we launched at the back end of last year a D2C offering on our biggest brand, Felix, which is also the biggest pet brand in the UK. So very, very known quantity within the customer base. And I'm going to just talk you through kind of the journey we went through and the learning so far. Bear in mind, it's still quite early days, but I wanted to just share with you what we've learned so far and the key things. So one of the things Sarah brought up earlier is whenever we talk about launching anything, it should be from a customer need or a pain point. So what is it that you're trying to resolve for your customer or your consumer? And that's one of the things we did quite early on. So as I say, it's a well-known brand and there is quite a following already. So what we did is ask the customers what they thought of the product or what could make it better. If they could change anything, what would it be? And quite surprisingly, actually, a lot of people came back because the way this product is sold is usually in multi-packs, so you get different flavors of different products sold together. But what came through was cats actually like specific flavors. And so if someone bought like a mixed variety, they would like some flavors but not eat some of the others. So they ended up being quite a lot of waste or, not value for money. So there was quite a lot of that type of feedback that came through. So what we thought of is actually if we gave customers the choice of what flavors they could buy, in a pack that would allow some interaction. So, cats like boxes. So we could make a box that the cat could play with after it was used, and that could reduce waste. So therefore only buying the flavors that we wanted. So what we did is actually, we trialed this out. We opened it out to staff and several customers within the ecosystem and said, look, let's test this out, see how it works. And actually we got some really strong results and managed to get this process to actually work. But it wasn't without its challenges because any business or any brand that's used to selling their products through different channels or route to market, as you'll know, is very different to then change it to a channel route to market that you don't know. So some of the challenges and barriers we came across was, we needed to create some new SKUs really quickly, and those working in kind of big FMCGs who are multinational will find that this process is quite slow and quite difficult because it needs to cater to different markets. So we needed to find a way to do this really quickly. The second one was, little things like, we wouldn't have thought of this, is that barcodes are different for our logistic provider to the one that we use. So we needed to think on our feet and create different ones quickly. And then lastly is we weren't used to fulfilling in this way. So there were a few early mistakes. For example, people would order 6 sleeves of 20 where they would actually get 6 pouches. I'm not sure why, because it's actually easier to do it the other way. But these are some of the early mistakes that we encountered and we had to learn from really quickly. The other thing we found out actually is whatever you plan to do, be really, really prepared to change it really quickly, because what happens is you don't quite know what's going to happen. If you're doing it for the first time, things change really quickly and directions need to go very, very quickly the other way. So for example, this was our plan to launch, but actually the red lines will show you all the things we needed to change before that could actually happen. And that makes a big difference in terms of what your plan is and where you need to go in terms of timeline. So you just need to be a bit flexible about what you want to do and when you want to launch it. Sarah brought this up as well, actually, and getting that consumer feedback and getting that first-hand kind of data and response from your customers is really key, because what we got was invaluable in terms of the first-party data that we could get. Because what we get is people telling us exactly what our product does, how they use it. You can see on the left, we've got some really good usage pictures of people's cats playing in the boxes, which is exactly what we wanted. It generates that kind of interactivity, that brand resonance. But what we also get is really first-hand feedback on what they want. So, as you can see at the top, I've listed some things that customers really liked. So they liked picking the new flavors, the flavors that they wanted. Some people have been waiting for this type of thing for a long time, so that's fantastic. But we also got some improvement ideas. So, at the bottom you can see some people were asking for some gravy flavors. Some people were asking for like wider range of products and different ones that they could tap into as well. So it gives us constant inputs into how we can improve the service and how we can improve the offering that we've got on the site. My final thoughts are actually quite in line with what Sarah said, and I promise we never actually looked at each other's presentation prior to today, but actually a lot of the messaging is very similar. You know, what we found is actually it can be a really expensive experiment. So, you know, we need to be really, really sure of the reasons why we're doing it. So what is your value proposition, and how is it different? It needs to add value to the end user, and you don't simply want to be competing with, you know, your other routes to market. So for example, you know, big brands often sell through Tesco and Amazon and what have you. What we don't want to be doing is selling the exact same product, and competing with the customers that we've built a relationship with. What we actually want to be doing is giving consumers that can't get, you know, already, and that type of offering will really help going forward. And it's not exactly, and it may not be the right solution for every brand, and the proposition needs to be really unique and working for your brand and the messaging you're trying to give. So you need to be sure that you know what your target market is, and you know, one of the points that we both raised is understanding the customer pain point. So what is it that they're really after? So in our case, we asked them, and they told us that they wanted the choice of flavors, and so therefore that is a pain point that we could solve. But that's not to say that we solved every pain point. So, you know, on that note, you have to be prepared to pivot often. I showed you our timeline of launching, and, you know, 4 out of the 7 things that we had to change. We had to change either what we did or the timing in which we did it. So you have to be prepared to pivot and often fail. You learn more from your failures than you do from your successes, because no one tells you if you've done something particularly well as often as if you've really messed it up. So you have to be prepared for that. We also have to be familiar with terms, and Sarah brought this up, like bounce rate, SEO, and click-through rates, because these are not things that we're familiar with as businesses who sell to other businesses. So we need to come up to speed with those things very quickly. And then finally, the data that you get from it is really invaluable. So even if you don't succeed in your launch and you don't succeed in the product that you're selling within the D2C operation, what you learn will really help your brand. So, you know, you can learn things like what the product is, how people interact with it, and what they like or dislike about it. So it informs your choices about what you launch in the future. So, yeah, that first party data is really, really important. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. So over to you, Sarah.
Great, thank you for that. Yeah, some really great insights, and a lot of key themes that resonated in both of your presentations. So we've got quite a few questions. I'm just trying to pick out some of the ones that I'm seeing overlapping. So let's go with this one first. So Sarah, let's get your thoughts on this first, because you mentioned that Screen Pages, also offers other services as well as D2C. So someone is asking, what is actually the difference with B2B and D2C when you're which one is more successful for a brand that's currently B2C and now considering other options?
So it really depends on what you're trying to achieve as a business. So a lot of our clients will consider D2C because they may want to offer different products to end customers or learn about their end customers, or sort of grow their market share in markets that aren't covered by their trade customers. There could be all sorts of reasons for that. Similarly, there could be all sorts of different reasons why a business might consider doing B2B e-commerce. So, what are the pain points when servicing your trade customers? If you're taking big orders from, the 5 top supermarkets every day, how do they order from you currently? If you have a system in place for that, that's great. But what about the smaller grocers? How do you service those smaller trade customers without incurring the same kinds of costs as you would happily incur for servicing, the likes of Waitrose and Sainsbury's and Tesco's? So you might consider doing B2B e-commerce as a way of adding efficiency into your business and reducing costs in servicing your trade customers. So it really depends. There isn't sort of one size that fits all. The reason that our client out in Qatar, for example, wants to do both D2C and B2B e-commerce is because they have a lot of manpower and inefficiencies in how they currently sell to their sort of restaurants and hotels and supermarkets in Qatar. And so sort of enabling a lot of those customers to order directly through a website is going to sort of allow them to put some reduce their costs of sale effectively. So that's why it's killing two birds with one stone. You know, one is they want to be able to offer their customers lots of different ways of ordering their products, but the other one is to reduce the costs within their existing business.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, no, absolutely, that does make sense. And, you know, it's also kind of going back to what you both said around, is it right for your business, and how do you know if it is? So yeah, that brings me to the next question actually for you, Vishal. What has your experience been with D2C? Do you recommend it for categories that, you know, most likely it is a good fit for them, or has the benefit more so been in the kind of the data and the insights that you've been able to collect?
Yeah, I think there is a benefit, and I think, you know, one side of me says it's like a shiny new toy that you can actually, first party data aside, you can act on things really quickly. So for example, you have an idea that you want to try, and one of the big things that I didn't talk about actually is the ability to A/B test things really quickly. So if you've got an offer that you want to run, and you've got another offer that you don't know which one's better, you can actually run both, and you can test stuff like that really quickly. So that's one of the benefits. The other one is you're able to deploy things, you know, very, very quickly, and I think that speed of turnaround really helps. Certainly, from businesses like ours, where traditionally things happen on a slower basis, or you go through multiple parties or agencies to do that. So, so yeah, from my point of view, the data and the ability to gather it really quickly and implement really quickly is really good.
Yeah, that makes sense. And talking about the data, we've got a question around how do you collect the data / the feedback from your customers?
So in two ways. So basically, any customer that buys from us is registered to us. So we've got, you know, they've opted into the data. So we've got their data, their pet profiles, for example. You know, if they've got 1 or 2 cats, or things like that, and they opt in to give us the data. Not everyone gives us everything, but we have enough of that. We also do surveys. So, for example, if someone buys a product and they never come back, we can send them a survey, through an ECRM program, and say, we've noticed they've not come back. Can you tell us kind of why? Is there anything we can do to improve? And getting that information as quick as possible at source really helps. So yeah, having a database of people through emails, and actually asking them the questions afterwards as well.
Okay.
I can add to that, actually. There are also tools like Google Analytics that will tell you what people are actually doing on your website. So which product categories they're visiting, which product categories they're bouncing out of. So they're going to have a look and they're not liking what they see, and so leaving the website. Whether Google Analytics will tell you, give you geo demographic information as well. Where in the country are they coming from? Are they male? Are they female? What are their other interests? There's a lot of data that's available to you that you can glean just from the activity that's happening on your website as well.
Absolutely, yeah, that makes sense. It looks like we have run out of time now. I think we could probably keep talking about this for a long time. There's so many things to consider, isn't there, when going D2C? So if anyone has any more questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I can pass on those questions, or you can connect with Sarah and Vishal on LinkedIn. I'm sure they'll be happy to connect with you on there as well. So thank you so much to both of you, Sarah and Vishal, for taking the time to participate in today's webinar. We learned some great insights from you. And as I mentioned, the recordings will be shared with all of you within the next 24 hours. So just look out for an email from me. And of course, thank you to everyone for listening in today. We hope you have a great day, and we hope you stay safe during these times.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, so much.
Thank you both. Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.